All right, everybody. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Welcome to the September meeting of the DuPage ROSC Council. My name is Jared Burton, and I am the ROSC coordinator. Happy to see such a great crowd, both on Zoom and in person here. Happy you could be here. Let's do a few housekeeping things, just the usual in the front. Please make sure your microphones are muted unless you are talking, just to kind of cut down on interruptions. I always leave time for questions, comments, and all kinds of stuff kind of later in the meeting. If it's something pressing, you can raise your tiny digital hand, and I will try to keep an eye out for it when that is up. So thank you. Second note, we're recording as always, so we put these up on our YouTube pages. Just let everybody know that we record. Third, could everybody, if they don't mind, put their name, contact info, organization, whatever you're representing in the chat. That helps a couple of different ways. One, it helps me with attendance, but also it's awesome for y'all to connect with each other. And we'll get into that a little bit later, the ways that we've used this meeting and these connections to kind of help out in the DuPage area as far as recovery stuff. But if you would like, please put that into the chat. I would like to start with a short primer on what ROSC is and does, because I know we're always getting new people here every month. So ROSC stands for Recovery-Oriented System of Care. It is a coordinated network of community-based services and supports that we keep very person-centered, and we try to build on the strength and resiliencies of the individual people, their families, the community, to kind of achieve an overall wellness, but especially with substance use and mental health. We aim to address the entire scope of substance use and recovery, including detox, treatment, medication, employment, spirituality, housing, support networks, all of those things that makes up a person's life and makes up a person's recovery. We try to bring them all to the table so we can all kind of pull together towards the same thing, and people stop falling through the cracks as they're trying to achieve recovery. Just as a person's more than the substance they are using, recovery should mean increased wellness across that continuum. So by coming together and kind of identifying what are these gaps in services in DuPage County, what are people's barriers to recovery, we can work together and kind of better provide for the residents of DuPage County. So having said that, I do want to share my screen. We'll kind of go over some housekeeping stuff before we get to our guest. Almost there, almost there. There we go. Can I get a thumbs up if everybody on Zoom sees it? All right, thank you. So just real quickly, going over the agenda now, we're going to preview a couple of upcoming events that are related to both the ROSC, the DuPage RCO, and Serenity House, which is our lead agency. Danny Sorbish usually gives us the WhatsApp referral group update. He is attending another meeting, so I'll be doing that for you today, kind of explaining what that is, what that group does. And then we have Greg Czaczkowski from the Drug Enforcement Administration. We've been looking forward to this presentation for a while. I think we tried to originally do it a few months back, and it just so happened that this was the month we could do it. If you've heard him present before, he does an amazing, informative job, and we're really looking forward to talking to him. Leave some room for organizational updates from everybody at the end. And then we're also going to get the DuPage RCO updates from Saleha, who's our RCO coordinator. So announcements related to ROSC, we had a few. The ROSC Winter Clothing Drive. If you guys have been around for about a year, we know that we did this first one last year. Last year, we kind of kept it to winter coats, and we took those coats to donate to the People's Resource Center in Wheaton. I have to say this every time we do a drive. You guys do such an amazing job at donations and being selfless and donating to these things. The winter drive, we ended up taking almost 10 full garbage bags of coats to the People's Resource Center. This time, we kind of wanted to expand the scope. So in addition to coats, we're going to do hats, scarves, gloves, sweaters, hoodies, basically anything that can keep somebody warm. We're going to expand to all those areas this year. So I'm going to run this drive until kind of the end of October. So we got a nice couple of months to start collecting things before it gets too cold. A couple different ways you can donate. You can come here, drop it off at Serenity House in Addison. A lot of times people would come to our ROSC meetings in person, and that's when they found they had time to come out here and drop those off if they were interested. Or you can always contact me on the side to make arrangements, and I would be happy to do that for you. So you know, as somebody that has lived experience, somebody that was, you know, dealt with substance use and all that entails for a long time, winter is not a fun time for a lot of us, or wasn't a fun time for a lot of us. So even simple things such as coats, you know, warm socks, gloves can really make a difference from someone who might still be struggling. So thank you in advance for all of your kindness in those donations. The Serenity House and DuPage ROSC annual pancake breakfast. So this is coming up on Saturday, the 30th. If you have not attended one of our pancake breakfasts before, you are missing out. It is a fantastic time. We do it here at Serenity House, actually this same room that you see the ROSC crowd camera on. And it's a great time. We start at 8. We start serving breakfast. It's $5 for all you can eat. We got pancakes, bacon, eggs, sausage, you name it. And that's usually cooked by the clients. So we give them a chance to show off their cooking skills, and it actually is very, very good. In addition, we're going to be doing a Narcan training at 10, and then we're going to have a recovery speaker. And then in addition, we always have raffles. So we do a 50-50 raffle, and then we have a number of baskets that you can win raffle for. And they're always good stuff. I mean, last year we had like a flat screen TV. The 50-50 raffle got up into a couple $100. It's always fun. So please come out to that. Invite your family, invite your friends. We would love to have you. I always have to mention our monthly virtual Narcan training. So we do this through the DuPage RCO, the Recovery Community Organization. We did a little change on this. Previously, it was running the third Thursday of every month at 3:30. And if you try to say that really fast, it's a little difficult. Third Thursday of every month, 3:30. It's still the third Thursday of every month, but we are now running it at 12:30. We kind of wanted to give people a chance to maybe attend on their lunch breaks. Sometimes it's a little bit easier than breaking out in the afternoon. So we do this monthly. I like to say this is a good kind of primer training. So if you have a friend or a loved one who maybe knows nothing about overdose reversal, this is perfect for them. But in addition, if you just want to brush up, or if you want to learn more about, fentanyl or xylazine or some of these other trends that are showing up in the drug supply in DuPage and surrounding counties, we do that for you. So you can attend that. It's virtual. We always put these up on our website if you want to go to DuPageROSC.org, and I also send them out on email. But also, if you attend one of these trainings and say, okay, I'm on board, I know how to reverse overdoses now, how can I get Narcan? You can talk to us. We'll make sure we get you the Narcan that you need. So I'm going to stop sharing on this for just 1 second, because I got to do a quick recap of just a couple of things, and then we'll be getting to our guests. First of all, thank you to everybody who attended the overdose awareness event on the 31st. There were actually 2 events that we kind of took part in. One was with the Glendale Heights Police Department on the 30th, and then we did ours here at Serenity House on the 31st. I didn't do a head count, but there had to have been at least, close to 200 people at the Serenity House event. Phenomenal turnout, very, emotional event as they often are, but it was great to be able to come together and do some kind of different things at the overdose awareness event. If you took part, you could see all the art that we did, and we'll be putting pictures of those up. They're actually up on Facebook, but people were able to create art on small 4x4 canvases, and some of the art people did was amazing. I had no clue that so many of our clients and alumni and family and friends were so artistically talented, but we're keeping those canvases, and we're hopefully going to use them as part of a bigger project in the coming years. And in addition, Saleha, who runs our RCO, did a great job of setting up our parking lot where people could write loved ones' names as a way to honor them, and we still have that out there. But it was just an amazing time. We were really glad everybody could make it out. Secondly, one more thanks. If anyone has taken part in the events that we did with Nature RX, which is through the Conservation Foundation, we just finished our 3rd event. That's a chance for people, especially people in recovery, not only from substance use, but mental health, to be able to go out and really get a new appreciation for some of the green spaces in DuPage County. So in a number of events, we went out with them into different forest preserves in DuPage. We just did the most recent one at Fullersburg Woods in Oak Brook, which have you not been there, it's pretty phenomenal. It's a very kind of centering grounding experience. And it's good to know that even though we're kind of out here in the middle of the suburbs, there are some spots that you can kind of escape to if you need it. And so I wanted to say thanks again to Nature RX and the Conservation Foundation. And hopefully we'll be doing some more events with them in the spring as it's about to get cold. We're going to have to shut it down for the year, but thank you to everybody for that. WhatsApp referral group. This is the last little thing here. Through the ROSC, we have what's called the WhatsApp referral group. If anyone here has ever used WhatsApp before, it's basically just an app for messaging. We found that when we started ROSC, we were always getting referral questions from people. You know, my son needs a detox, or I have a friend of a friend who's looking for, you know, a 12-step meeting. There's all kinds of questions that we get as people kind of work in the field. And I found that a lot of the people who are not only professionals, but people who are just kind of doing recovery work out here, we're running into the same issues. And so I said, why don't we find a place where we can all kind of get together and bounce referrals off of each other? And that's how it started. We have actually increased up to 62 people on that WhatsApp now. Some of you are on it. I think a lot of you are on it, across, you know, dozens of organizations, obviously in DuPage, Kane, Will County. But we also added people from our neighbors in like Sauk Valley, the Sauk Valley Voices of Recovery. This month alone, we've helped people find detoxes, residential treatment, medication assisted recovery, even more specialized services. I remember we had one of a person who was looking for a service that could help take care of pets when someone goes to treatment, which is one of those things I had never really thought about before, but is really an actually super helpful thing for people who might be hesitant to go to treatment because they have a dog or a cat. And we helped find that service. And then we also helped somebody find some services for somebody who is on Kratom. So some of these newer drugs that we're seeing in smoke shops, people are having just as many issues with those. So if you are interested in joining that group, it's very non-invasive. You don't get bombed with notifications. You can put your info in the chat and say, I'm interested in joining. And Danny Sorbis will get you all set up on that. And hopefully we can just keep the train going, keep finding services for people as they come up. All right, all the housekeeping is out of the way. I do want to get to our guest now, Greg Czaczkowski, who is the division training coordinator for the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. I happened to see a presentation Greg did a few months ago for the DuPage Health Department, a similar presentation on, you know, One Pill Can Kill is kind of the initiative, but talking about fentanyl and counterfeit pills and other things that they're seeing at the DEA. It blew me away. It was incredibly informative. And I thought it would be great to have him come and talk to our group. Greg is beaming in from a week of digital trainings, virtual trainings he's doing. So we're glad that he could make the time for us. And I will leave some time for questions and comments at the end. So if everyone could just make sure they're muted, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Greg Czaczkowski. Greg, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Let's see if I can get this to work here. Are you guys, let's see. All right. Are you guys seeing my PowerPoint?
We can see it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I appreciate the introduction. I'll talk a little bit about myself, just to give you guys a little bit more background on, you know, me. But one of the first things I'd like to say is I appreciate all the work that you guys are all doing. All right. You know, with the Serenity House and everything, it's just another piece of the puzzle to help people. I think we're all in the business of helping our communities. We just do it in different ways. We may not always agree on, you know, how or some of the methods that some people use to help people. But the one thing is we all do want to help people. And, you know, we're a law enforcement agency. That's what we do. You know, drug law enforcement is what we do. So we're really in the business of destroying, dismantling, and disrupting criminal drug organizations, any drug trafficking organizations. So that's our primary thing. That's what we as DEA do. We're drug enforcement agents. We arrest the people that are pushing the poisons that we are seeing out there. We're not in the business of arresting people who are suffering from substance use disorder. I want to make that clear. You know, some people get scared and they think, oh, it's the cops, it's the feds, you know, they're here to, you know, arrest everybody and things. And people who are suffering from substance use disorder need help. Okay. They need help like Serenity House, what you guys are doing. Okay. That's extremely important stuff. You know, so that's our primary thing, is disrupting, dismantling, and destroying these criminal drug trafficking organizations. Now, a small sliver of what we do is that education component, that community outreach component, to let you guys know, to let our communities know, our country know that we're here to help. Okay. So one of the programs that we have, and this is what I'm going to talk about today, is called One Pill Can Kill. And it's truly focused on the fentanyl crisis that we're seeing in this country. One of the other things that I like to plug as well is a program called I Choose My Future. And the program I Choose My Future is geared more towards young adults, kids actually ranging from 6th grade all the way up to into college. The reason why we call it I Choose My Future is because young people, you know, I mean, even adults, but we're targeting young people in this sense, to say, hey, look, you know, the choices you guys make as young people can reflect on you later on in life. That's why we want to make good choices, right? Are we going to make mistakes? Of course, we all make mistakes. The problem is nowadays, especially with the potencies of the different types of drugs that are out there, a mistake costs you your life. Or, you know, best case scenario, or I wouldn't say best case scenario, but another scenario would be leading you down the path of substance use disorder, right? The one thing we all know, and I'm sure we all can agree on, you know, scientists say that your bodies aren't fully developed until you're into your mid-20s, your brains. So a young person getting involved in these substances can lead them very quickly down the path of substance use disorder and possibly even overdose and death. And that's, again, why we have this I Choose My Future, and we're trying to help educate those young people on making good, healthy choices and staying away from some of these things. So anyway, that's a little plug. If any of you guys work in different school districts, if you guys want, Red Ribbon Week is coming up. I certainly hope you all know what Red Ribbon is about. To commemorate DEA Special Agent Kiki Camarena, who was tortured and murdered by a Mexican drug cartel in the 1980s. And that brought national attention to the drug problem in the United States, as well as throughout the world, and national attention to the DEA and what we do. So every year we commemorate him and his sacrifice, and in that spirit to educate people about the dangers of the different substances that are out there. So a little bit about my background and experience. I'm currently the division training coordinator for the Chicago Field Division, which includes Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. So I handle the training for those 3 states. I'm also the demand reduction coordinator, meaning reducing the demand for drugs. That's what we're trying to do. We're more in the demand reduction side of things, okay? I'm also a firearms instructor, so I'm on the range quite a bit, training our agents and task force officers. Everything I've had a great career. It's been awesome. I started in New York City. I've done everything you could possibly do as an agent. Been involved in arresting high-level cartel leaders all the way down to low-level street dealers. I was on the Violent Crime Task Force here in Chicago for a number of years. I was on our SRT, our Special Response Team, which we basically are getting the high-risk targets that we're looking at. Started in New York City, worked almost 10 years in New York City, been involved in testifying federal trials, federal grand juries. I've done undercover work. So a little bit of everything. And again, I'm not trying to say, hey, look at me, I'm cool or anything like that, but I have a wealth of experience in drug enforcement. Okay. And I've had a lot of great opportunities. And doing community outreach and being the demand reduction coordinator, one of the things I'm most proud of is I've spoken to over 27,000 youth in and around the Chicago area in the last 6 years. So that's very important to me. It's very important to the DEA to help educate our communities. And one of the other things I do is I work with a lot of drug prevention coalitions in our areas, right? To help, you know, with anything they need, like pamphlets, things like that we can provide, or doing my presentations at different schools or for communities. So that's basically it. Now, one of the things that we can see, some of the current trends that we've seen in the last few years. Now, I'm sure some of you guys are probably familiar with SAMHSA or CADCA, these organizations. SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, they put out some awesome research, right? And we like to look at that research and see some of the things that are going on in that research. So one of the things, for example, and this is just a couple of things that I pulled up from them, for young people, right? People aged 12 and older, what we're seeing. Alcohol use. Alcohol use has always been at a pretty high level. Why is that? Well, it's legal, right? A lot of people drink alcohol. I'm 50 years old. I don't drink anything. I've never liked the taste. I grew up being a straight edge kid. Some of you may know what that, I know Jared does. I was a straight edge kid growing up, so I stayed away from that. But it was interesting. I was in the subculture of a lot of drugs and alcohol. I used to actually be the lead vocalist in a heavy metal band before I became an agent with the DEA. So I had really long hair, was very handsome back then. I don't know what happened since, but anyway, but being in that subculture, I had seen drugs destroy so many lives around me. And that's what inspired me to go in the DEA. I've got a niece and a nephew that are both recovering heroin addicts, for example. So, I'm not just a cop telling you this stuff is bad or whatever, because this is what I do. Some of my experiences led me to become an agent because I care. Okay. So again, and let's just, look at the slide right now. Cigarette use has gone down tremendously. Why? Well, because we've been talking about the dangers of it, right? Congress finally, figured out that, hey, wait a minute, tobacco use is linked to lung cancer, heart disease. Maybe we should do something about this, put restrictions on this stuff, right? So Congress was pushing the tobacco companies. So there was the campaigns, and you were seeing young people using less and less because they were pushing this, which has been awesome. But look at marijuana, cannabis use. It's double, okay? And why is it double? Well, it's double because now we're commercializing it. It's legalized. And we still believe that it is a dangerous pathway into substance use disorder. I mean, I'll tell you right now, even some of my friends that I grew up with, the guys that I played in different bands with or that would come into our shows and things like that. Oh, no, it's not addictive. It's not addictive. 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road, yeah, I can't stop. It is an addiction. And the problem too is the THC levels back when we were kids were maybe 8 or 10%. Now we're seeing THC levels over 90 and 95%. So it's tremendously damaging to young people. And that's a big concern of ours right now as well. Now, I know they're talking about rescheduling marijuana. Now, are there medicinal purposes for it? Sure. We're seeing some of that, but I think we need a whole lot more research on that. Look how long it took for us to figure out tobacco was damaging. Now that we're going to, now that it's legalized and commercialized in many states, I have a feeling you're going to see a similar trend with the dangers of, cannabis use. So again, it's things that we need to think about. Okay. But anyway, going on, you just kind of see some of the numbers in there. Now, this overdose and poisoning crisis that we're having here in the United States is a public safety and public health threat, and it's truly a national security threat to what we're seeing. We're seeing titles like this in social media, on news sources and things like that. It's so sad. I'm getting calls, it seems like every few weeks, maybe even once a month, where I'm getting a call from a family saying, my son, my daughter, my loved one, my friend took a pill from someone. They thought it was this, and it wound up being fentanyl or had fentanyl in it, and they died. This is a serious, serious problem that we're having here in this country. Now, what is fentanyl? We know fentanyl is a potent synthetic opioid drug. It's been approved by the FDA and has been used as an analgesic or a pain reliever. So it's been used for a really long time, but it's a controlled substance, right? But we know it's 100 times more potent than morphine and 50 times more potent than heroin as an analgesic, okay? What we started seeing, cartels are always trying to figure out a way to get people addicted to their product, right? And they also want to cut their product, meaning meaning adding different things to it to make more, right? So they might get it like traditionally, they get a kilo of Coke. So kilo of Coke comes into the country because it's not made here. Kilo of Coke comes in. They take that cocaine. The street dealers are like, okay, well, I'm going to add some other garbage into this so I can make that kilo into 2 kilos to make more money. We actually had a case in Chicago where they were putting rat poison in with the drugs. Okay. So the cartels were figuring, well, wait a second. Fentanyl is this extremely addictive drug. We know that people in the United States, especially, have been getting more and more addicted to opioids, right? Prescription drugs and things like that. So they were robbing pharmacies. They were having gangs and people robbing pharmacies, CVS's and Walgreens to steal prescription drugs because of so many people that have been, abusing opioids. Well, they started to realize that, wait a second, with those opioids, we know fentanyl is so potent. We'll start putting fentanyl in some of these drugs to see if we can get more people addicted. So we were seeing trace amounts of fentanyl as far back as like 2015, I think, 2014. And then it just continually got more and more. And now we're seeing kilos of fentanyl, powdered, brick form of fentanyl. But then they were also manufacturing it in pills, right? So you can see on this slide, and this has actually changed. I need to update this. We're actually over 110,000 overdose and poisoning deaths, right? That's literally close to 70% of those involve synthetic opioids, specifically fentanyl, a lot of fentanyl, okay? That's a serious concern. It is literally like, our administrator, Ann Milgram, had said in a press conference before, it is like an aircraft crashing, like a jumbo jet crashing every single day. Now, if that was going on, you hear that on the news all day, wouldn't you? But are we hearing about this? This is why we need to educate each other about what's going on with this fentanyl poisoning and overdose crisis, right? And the reason why I'm using those two terms is, we've worked with a lot of families that have lost loved ones. And in some cases, yes, people are overdosing, meaning they're taking something, more of something, and then they overdose. But a lot of times it's poisoning because they don't know what they're getting. And there's fentanyl in it and they're dying. And we need to pay that respect to those people because, I think a lot of people have this image in their mind of, oh, someone who overdosed. Well, it's just some junkie out on the street. We can't, that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is. That's the wrong image to have. And it's just not the truth. So we need to understand these things and be a little more self-aware of what's going on. In 2021, DEA seized enough fentanyl to kill every single American. That's how potent this drug is, and that's how much we're seeing, right? The tip of that pencil is a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. That small amount. And that small amount could be in a pill, could be in a powder, could be in something you're not even expecting. Some of the most counterfeit pills that we're seeing, typical things that I'm sure you're all aware of that people, fall prey to substance abuse with, right? Or substance use disorder, oxys, Adderall, Xanax. Well, the cartels are trying to manufacture these to look just like those drugs. But can you tell which is real and which is fake? Which one's real and which one's fake? The average person can't tell. And they're getting more and more identical looking. So you can't tell, because people have the attitude, well, it's a prescription drug, even if it's not, something that I'm not prescribed and my friend's using it, I'm going to try and use it because I want to get high off of it. Well, I'll take it. It's a prescription. It's safe. That's not the case. First of all, we know we shouldn't be taking anything that we're not prescribed, right? It's prescribed by a doctor through a legitimate pharmacy. But the problem is nowadays, we have a pill popping generation. And what I mean by pill popping generation is how many commercials do you see on television for a drug, for a pill? Right? There's a drug for everything. Now, are there legitimate drugs out there that people need to take because they have, some sort of a chemical imbalance or an ailment or something? Absolutely. But man, we are overwhelmed with, just take this. It'll make you feel better. And that's kind of what we're fighting against, especially when people are like, well, take this. It'll be fun. And you have no idea what you're getting. So the authentic one is on the top, the fake one's on the bottom. It's hard to tell. How about here? And the color doesn't always matter either. The authentic is on the top, the fake is on the bottom. Average person isn't going to be able to tell with some of this stuff. In our recent seizures, we used to be at 4 out of 10 pills that DEA is seizing contain a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. We're up over 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 pills that the DEA is seizing are containing fentanyl. So just think about all the numbers of what we're seizing and that many. So these are illicit drugs, right? These pills that we're taking or that we're seizing are, being used in an illicit manner. This isn't stuff you're getting from CVS or Walgreens. This is stuff you're getting out on the street. 6 out of 10. So your chances of possibly dying are great with that. Now, here's a photo of a medical grade fentanyl laboratory, right? It's like when I talk about this with kids and I say, well, how many of you guys have had, science class and, done experiments? And what do you got to do? Well, you got to wear gloves, you got to wear goggles, you got to make sure surfaces are clean, your instruments are clean, right? This looks like a very clean environment. This is what, where, a regular drug, one of these pharmaceutical companies is manufacturing things. That's where these fake pills are being manufactured. Doesn't look like a really safe place, does it? But this is what we're seeing is this type of environment. These are camps that are in the woods in Mexico, for example, that the Mexican cartels are running. Do you think the quality of pill that you're getting from here is going to be the same as the other place? You have no idea. And they're getting a lot of their precursor chemicals from China and India. And it's coming into Mexico. The cartels are manufacturing it there and then pushing it over the border. And that's what's going on. Right there, that shelf contains approximately 1.2 million fentanyl pills. And, one of the other things I do is I'm an evidence custodian as well at work. And I see this stuff coming through all the time. Agents are seizing pills left and right. These are some, numbers from 2017 to 2020. Percentage of tablets containing 2 milligrams more of fentanyl. Look how much it's gained. And it's continually gaining, right? The average dose is even greater in these pills. And how are they getting accessed? People used to think, oh, don't go to that neighborhood or don't go on that street corner because that's where you go get drugs. Man, everybody should understand now with social media and our telephones and what we can do. Man, you could have it driven right up to your door. You can meet someone from a different part of your state, a different part of the world, and get connected with other people and get these drugs. So it's not the old picture of, that neighborhood or this or what. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And it's very easily accessible. So we really need to keep in mind, especially with our younger people, on what they're looking at in social media and what they're doing. These are some emoji codes that are being used just to give you guys an idea, right? Because a typical drug dealer isn't going to say, hey, I would like to sell you a kilo of Coke or a kilo of fentanyl. Would you like to purchase this? They use codes, right? I mean, when we would do wires, the wiretaps, listening to other telephone conversations of targets that we're investigating. They're not using things openly. They're using codes. They might use a word like shirts. Hey, give me 3 shirts. Those shirts could be kilos, or whatever the case may be. So now with the advent of emojis and texting and all these different apps, a lot of times it's just coming over that. It's not even over voice. People are just texting this information. So this is some important stuff for you guys to be aware of. What we need is your help, right? We need to educate more people about the dangers, number 1, of substance use disorder. Number 2, of the fake pills that are out there, right? And the thing that we keep talking about is you shouldn't be taking anything that you are not prescribed by a doctor from a legitimate pharmacy. And we need to educate everyone about that. And I would say too, with your prescription drugs, you know, adults, you guys as adults, make sure you lock that stuff up, hide it. Don't have it too accessible to children. And you know, you might, it might not be your children, your children's friends come over. Maybe they, hey, I'm going to use your bathroom. They go in the bathroom, they go in the medicine cabinet and they steal drugs. It happens. People have actually gone into when people are having like an open house. People are going into those open houses and, oh, I need to use the bathroom, and then going through medicine cabinets to see if they could find anything to steal. So it's important we're very cautious about how we handle our own medications and stuff, because some of that stuff is very addictive, right? So One Pill Can Kill is one of our main campaigns, and this is what I'm here talking about here today, dea.gov/onepill. You can get more information on there about what I'm talking about today. And again, it's bringing that awareness to everybody, right? I think all of us have a different piece of the puzzle, you know, whether or not it's, you know, law enforcement or drug prevention or rehabilitation, we all have a piece of the puzzle, and we all need to work with each other together to help our communities and make them safer. So again, One Pill Can Kill. You guys can scan that, or you guys can just go to the website. Like I said, dea.gov. We got a lot of stuff on there that you guys will be able to find. Here's my contact information if you guys need anything from me. You guys can call me, but I prefer email. Email is just a better way for me to keep track of all the different events and different things I'm doing, because then I can go back and go, oh yeah, we discussed that. So that would be great. But that's it. That is my presentation. I'm showing, I'm open to any questions, and I'll just share one last bit of my personal history. That's a photo of me and my wife and 2 kids after I graduated from SWAT school. And unfortunately, 7 years ago, we were driving home from a vacation in Wisconsin. And as we were driving home from that vacation, there was a vehicle driving erratically in front of us. As I attempted to pass the vehicle, the driver came out with a revolver and began shooting at us. First round hit my son's door, and the second round hit my wife in the neck and killed her in front of my 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter. The person who committed this act is a paranoid schizophrenic who had murdered somebody else earlier in the morning and was high on synthetic marijuana. So I just share that to let you know that I do have a passion for drug prevention, drug awareness, and things like that. You know, I've had people die around me that have suffered from substance use disorder. I've had friends that, you know, or people I've known that have gone to prison for murder because they were stoned and made bad choices. So, you know, these are things that, you know, those things happened before I became an agent. So this is something very true to me, and I think it's very important. But also I do share that, especially with my students that I talk to let them know that I promise you, you can get through a hard time. My children and I are getting through it, and there is no shame in asking for help. And getting that help, that mental help, really, really, really helps. And every time I've gone and spoken at a school, I've had a young person come up to me and share with me either a drug problem they may have, or a family member, or a trauma that they've gone through. And it really helps to open doors. And I get them in contact with their school counselor. And sometimes the school counselors had no idea what was going on because it was opened up by our, you know, my presentation. So again, I just, what I'm talking about here is coming from my heart. I truly believe in what I'm doing, and I appreciate everything what you guys are doing on your end too. We all need to do this together. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And I'll take any questions you guys may have.
Thanks, Agent Czaczkowski. Yeah, give him a round of applause. I got a group here. There's a round of applause. We do have some time for questions. So what I'm going to do is if anybody here on the Zoom call has a question, they can raise their hand or they can jump on. Same thing for people in person. If anyone has a question, feel free to come up. I can have you jump on the second microphone. But I think while we're kind of maybe setting up questions, one thing that I mentioned earlier in the meeting was that drug called xylazine, right? Which is something that's showing up more and more. How have you personally seen that? Is that something that you're coming across more of as I guess dealers and people try to find things to mix in with the supply?
Yeah, so xylazine, my understanding is it's a horse tranquilizer, and they are cutting it into other drugs, in mixing it with the fentanyl. They're mixing all kinds of stuff. I mean, it is just so insane what we're seeing nowadays, the different types of drugs that are out there and how they just intermix it with things. Like I said earlier, too, we had a case, my old group, because I stepped down from enforcement after my wife's murder, and became the training coordinator and demand reduction coordinator. And they had a case where they were putting rat poison in with it. So, I mean, you got xylazine, you got carfentanil. I mean, it's so hard for us to keep track and keep up with this. And that's why I think one of our biggest hurdles is awareness. And that's why we want to make sure we're talking with people like you guys, and then you guys tell other people, and we work with drug prevention communities. Everybody. We just need to educate people on the dangers of this stuff. And it's just not like it used to be when people thought, well, we could just party a little bit and have some fun, and that's it. It was deadly then, but it's definitely more deadly now.
Absolutely. I have one more question, and like I said, if anybody's got some, they can jump in. But one thing you mentioned when you were describing overdose versus poisoning. And I think that's something that we have seen more and more, working in the field that we do and just being in recovery and knowing people who've gone through this. That's something that can divide a lot of them, right? They've lost a loved one. And some of them are fine with that terminology of overdose, but then others will very point blank say, my loved one didn't overdose. They were fentanyl poisoned or they were murdered,
Yeah.
What's your take on that? And I know you maybe can't give a straightforward answer like I think this, but is that something you're seeing more of too, like the move from just accidental overdose to drug-induced homicide and fentanyl
Yes.
poisoning?
Oh, yeah. No, there's no question about it. We had so our administrator last year had requested that headquarters put together this thing called the Family Summit. And that's where we had reached out to families in each of our divisions that had lost loved ones from the fentanyl poisonings and overdoses. Now, at the time, everybody was overdose. Well, when they came to DC and we had this big meeting with all these people from all different parts of the country, and we were talking about it, that's the one thing that the families kept saying was, my kid didn't overdose. They were poisoned. They had no idea what they were taking. And it's like, you have to respect that, and you have to understand that, sure, that there is that case. I still use both terms because there are people that are suffering from substance use disorder and they do overdose. I mean, there are overdoses. It's not everything's a poisoning. Some are poisonings, which is like you could lead that to a drug-induced homicide. And then some are overdoses. So I think they kind of work together, but we need to just respect those people for what they've suffered, and understand that it's not always one or the other. I mean, you know what I mean? Each situation is unique and can be different, but we just need to be sensitive to what everyone has gone through.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Greg? If you do, you can go ahead and unmute, or if anybody here. I see one. Hang on one second.
Awesome.
Greg?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Chris Thompson. I'm a sober coach here at Serenity House.
What's up, man? How are you?
How are you? As Jerry knows, I never pass up an opportunity to speak to the microphone or get on camera. But I was really struck by the power of the information you shared and the way in which you shared it. You're a highly credible speaker, and your background, validates that, certainly. So here's the thought that kept going over my mind. And maybe I'm delusional, and like everyone in this room would say, I am. But I would think at some age there is a window for hearing the kind of information you delivered today
Mhm.
that would scare the crap out of a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, in your experience, what that age range is, or maybe you could say, Chris, there is no age range. And from what authority should it come from? Should it come from parents, school administrators, or a third party professional like yourself? That's my
Well,
question.
no, I appreciate that's a very good question. I truly think what I've seen, I think sixth grade and up, I give the same presentation for sixth graders all the way into college. Yeah, I might take out a couple of the videos because they're a little more kid friendly, but it's the same talk. I had a seventh grader come up to me after I got done talking at a school and tell me he had a pill addiction. Seventh grade. You go into some other communities, you might even be seeing it in fourth and fifth grade. So I think, you know, it's a little fluid, but I think a good baseline would be sixth and up. The unfortunate thing is, though, I try to get into as many schools as I can. And there are some people that, one school in particular, we've been negotiating doing a talk, but one of the things that their substance people had told me was, hey, we don't use scare tactics, you know, so you can't talk about scare tactics. I'm like, okay, but what do you define as a scare tactic? Because those numbers are real. And that's not, I wouldn't call it a scare tactic. It's reality. You know, like a airplane crash today of people that are dying. It's a reality to say that, you know, the potency of the drugs that are out there are greater than they ever have been. And you being a young person are more susceptible to addiction because your body and your brain hasn't fully developed. That's just truth. That's fact. That's science. So, you know, but some people, I don't know. I mean, they would get a little like, oh, well, you know, that's like scare tactics. I mean, do you remember back in the day, they had, this is the brain, this is your brain, this is your brain on drugs. Okay. And they said, well, that was kind of a scare tactic and you shouldn't use that anymore. Well, there's an updated version of that video that I do use. And it's related to heroin. That's the drug that they talk about in the video, but a female has the eggs and she said, this is your brain. And this is what your brain goes through when you use heroin. And she starts smashing the plate. This is what your brain goes through. This is what your body goes through, your friends, your family, your job, your self-respect, your future, and destroying all these things. And some people might call that a scare tactic, but you know what? When she gets done, when I show that video and I tell everybody, I truly believe that is an accurate depiction of how substance use disorder can destroy the life of not only the person that's using, but the family around that person, the loved ones. You know, it's just a reality of what's going on. And you know, so going back to your question about the age range, I truly believe I think like sixth and up is really a good baseline to start with, because you got sixth graders that are vaping. Okay. And they're not just vaping, you know, flavors. They're vaping THC. We've seized cartridges that have 95% THC in them. And you've got parents that are giving the vapes to the kids. Oh, it helps them with their anxiety. Okay. And this is what we have to fight. We have to fight other, you know, it's sad because it's like, I don't want to demonize someone's parents. But in the same respect, we need to let them know that the dangers of this stuff and how you could so easily fall prey to substance use disorder, especially as a young person, because your body and brain is still developing. It just leads to a bad future. You know, I mean, anyway, I don't know. Did I answer your question properly? Was there anything else in there? I'm sorry. I get kind of all worked up about it.
So Jay, just the second part, which is, do you think this message is best delivered by the schools, the parents, or a third party professional like yourself? How is it going to be most effective?
Okay. I truly believe we all have a piece of the puzzle. And I love going to these schools and doing these talks. And, you know, is it saving lives? I hope so. I think so. I have kids coming up to me and opening up to me and sharing with me. I've had kids years later tell me, I will never forget you coming to my school and what you talked about. So I think, honestly, every school should have a mandated drug prevention program. in my opinion. I really think that would be a smart thing to do, but I can't do that. I can't lobby or any of that stuff. I work for the federal government. I think it would be a good idea. I think it'd be a good idea because, I mean, each school has a health program, and I know they talk about drugs, but what do they talk about with it? You know, I think we really need to bring it, but I think parents should also hear this. They really should. I mean, a lot of times I'm in the school, but I'm not talking to the parents. It's just the kids. So I think talking to the parents would also be nice. And I've done that a few times, but it's a little harder to do. And I think that gets challenging too, especially when you have parents that are, you know, using. And, you know, and again, but that's why I also say, look, people who have substance use disorder need help. We're not here to arrest those people. Those people need help, and you need to care for them. You need to love them, and you need to show them that. That's how we help get through this program or problem, I should say. All of us have a different piece of that puzzle.
Greg Czaczkowski, everybody. I do want to say real quick that our own Felicia Maselli, who's in the crowd here, who works with us, she was part of getting legislation passed this past year where there will be education and better educations in schools in the state of Illinois
Awesome.
with a law named after her son. So that work's
God bless
important.
you. Thank you.
And it's big work. It's big work. So Greg, thank you again for the time. It was great. Hold on. Felicia's going to ask a question, actually. Hang on.
Hi there, Greg.
Hi.
Appreciate your heartfelt, emotional journey. We know you're in it for the right reason, and that's really nice to hear and see and feel. I was curious about seizures.
Mhm.
Is it true? I heard that we actually only collect 10% of the fentanyl coming in. Is that an accurate number? Like 90% is getting in and we actually seize only 10%? And if so, if we know where the cartels are operating, why don't we have a more direct approach? And I don't know. I'm just really curious.
No, I appreciate that. I don't know what the actual numbers would be, 10%, 15%. I don't know, but I know we sure as heck aren't getting all of it. That's for sure. You know, every one we get, there's probably 5 or 10 that go through. I don't doubt that. We are overwhelmed. But here's the thing. We have a demand for this. And again, going back to what's my title? Demand reduction. We got to reduce the demand for this. We have a culture of people that think, hey, let's just party. Let's just get high. It's all good. It's all okay. We have to change that culture because it's damaging. It's dangerous, right? So, yeah, that's a tough one. You know, there is a lot that's getting through that we're not getting. And yeah, direct with the cartels. DEA has more offices overseas than any other federal law enforcement agency. Okay. We are in, I think, 95 offices overseas. So we have big contingencies everywhere. And obviously in big places, big drug hubs, Mexico, unfortunately, look, Mexico is a wonderful country, wonderful people, great culture, but you've got cartels down there that are destroying it. And you know, so those cartels, yeah, you bet we're targeting them. We're working on them very hard. And we have people on the ground in Mexico, as well as people obviously stateside that are working cases towards that. But it's difficult. You know, you're talking about a foreign country. You know, it's not like you can, well, let's go to war. I know sometimes some of the politicians may talk about we're going to, you know, declare war on them. I mean, yeah, that would be kind of nice if you think about it, but it's just, it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to deal with in that way because you're not going against an entire country. You're going against a certain group of individuals that unfortunately are destroying that place. So yeah, but we are doing our best. Like I said, we have more offices overseas than anywhere else. And the reason why we have those offices overseas in 95, like, approximately different places, it's not just you know, I mean, we have offices in Poland, for example. You know, I'm Polish. And why do we have an office there? Why Poland? Well, if there are drugs going through, we're trying to help those other countries figure out their drug law enforcement. So we're helping with them, but also we have treaties with a lot of these other countries that if there's a drug that's coming from that country and it's eventually coming to the United States, then we might be able to work that case that way and help them and help us, and then be able to extradite possibly and get the, you know, hold these people accountable for what they're doing.
Thank you so much, Greg. Again, we appreciate the time you've given us for today, and we'll have to have you come back at some point and let us know
Anytime.
what the agency is doing. And we appreciate your work, man. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
he was not lying. He was in a great metal band that I saw when I was younger, and that's how we connected. If you ever went to any of the clubs out here in the suburbs, you may have seen him. But yeah, great guy. Thank you, Greg. We appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Take care, guys. Thank you. Keep up
All
with
right.
good work. Appreciate
Thank
what
you.
do.
So we got a few minutes left here for everybody else. Usually we've got time to kind of promote and talk about what we're working on. I do want to give it to Saleha for just a little bit here. She can kind of run down what the RCO is doing. And then with the time we have left, we'll get to promote everybody else's projects. So Saleha, I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, I'll start off by saying thank you so much, Greg. It is tremendous the work that you're doing and your story. I am so sorry to hear about the loss, but also how it really relates to like your passion and what you're doing. Another thing that really connects with RCO here is the education component, right? As soon as I heard you go into schools, like my ears perked up and I'm like, I'm definitely sending him an email after this. But one of the things that RCO is really passionate about working on is prevention education in schools, right? So we have one middle school, and I've been reaching out to a lot of high schools as the school year starting in trying to make sure that we can get out there as part of their health units, because they do have health units. However, their health units are more fact-based and not so much prevention-based. So how can we get out there and do prevention education and try to implement these things in the schools to reach a different population, students, and then as well as parents too. Another thing that we're working on with RCO is we're trying to find new sites for Narcan vending machines and boxes. We've got one going to the Glendale Heights PD as far as I know, Jarrett. And then so
Yep.
if you or anyone you know is interested in one, please feel free to reach out to Jarrett or I. Another thing I am currently working on is planning for a fall sober event that I want to put together so that we can get people to come out and do a sober fun activity. We provide peer support services for people in recovery, and are also working on finalizing our board members in the background. So a lot of interesting and exciting news coming up soon. And I will give it back to you, Jarrett. If anyone has any questions, I will have Jarrett attach the QR code for the RCO board application in the follow-up email that he sends out, just so that you all have access to that as well. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Saleha. Yeah, if anyone here has been looking for a way to get involved at kind of a roots level on recovery programs and DuPage, check out that RCO board application, because it's a way to kind of make your voice heard in some of the programs that we're starting for people in recovery. I do have a couple of minutes left here, so who would like to promote what they're working on? Does anybody here have any needs they could use some collaborative work with? Who's doing what right now? Floor is yours. And not all at once. I say this every time.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much. And this was a very moving presentation. I'm really grateful for it, and sorry for your loss. Lisa Bloom, Northwestern Medicine Behavioral Health. In that vein, I want to give a nod to the developing adolescent brain, and just throw out a reminder that our newest Northwestern Medicine Behavioral Health program is a dual program for adolescents in our dedicated adolescent space in Wheaton. So for any of you who haven't seen the space, it's really the newest built out, and I'd love to have you come by. Thanks for all you do.
Anybody else? Hold up, I got another one. Hang on.
Hi, everyone. Jared had mentioned our art project for Overdose Awareness Day, and it's a small canvas, 4x4, and we're going to make a collage out of all of them. If any of you want to contribute, you can come by Serenity House, and we have the supplies here, and would love to have your little art canvas as part of our sculpture. So please feel free to stop by and join us on that.
Thank you, Felicia. All right, we have hit 4 o'clock. So on that note, I'm going to be cognizant of everyone's time. Thank you again to Greg Czaczkowski for the great presentation. If anyone's interested, I always put the video of this on YouTube, so I should have that up tomorrow. I'll send out the link to everybody. If anybody wants to donate winter clothes, you can reach out to me, and any type of harm reduction material. So if you need Narcan, if you need fentanyl test strips, if you need xylazine test strips, any of that type of stuff, just reach out, and I got them for you. So next meeting of the ROSC Council will be on Wednesday, October 11th at 3 p.m. And we hope to see you there. I'm going to end the recording, but I'll hang out here for a couple minutes in case anybody has any questions.